some of you have heard the story I'm about to tell before, and some of you this will be new. But I just want to say about a year ago or more, my friend Tammy and I, we'd have weekly coffee dates, and we'd sit there and we'd talk about what was going on in the world, what was going wrong in the world, and sitting there going, how do we stop this? And she would ask me, she'd say, we have to do something. And I'd say, what can we do? Like, how can we stop what's happening? And then she said to me, well, if our country turns communist, do you want your grandchildren to ask you why you didn't do anything to stop this from happening?
That's right. Wow.
And that was it. I was like, all right. I got on the phone, I reached out to someone who I knew was plugged into some groups around the area. And she started introducing us to different groups. And we found that there were a lot of people that were already in on this fight to preserve our freedoms, to keep our liberty, basically to save our children, to save ourselves, and just improve the country we're currently living in. And each of these groups was really putting in a lot of effort. I have to say, I'm very proud of them. They taught me a lot. They taught us all a lot. And some of you are in those groups, and some of you might be new to figuring out how you can plug into what's going on. So as we were looking for these groups, we started realizing that a lot of people were working towards the same goals, but not together. And so we were thinking, all right, we see a need to unite these groups and unite everybody together. Because all the wheels were turning, but they were just not all working towards pulling the same way. And so that's what we're about here. We found Freedom Coalition. We went down to watch some speakers in Yuba County where Freedom Coalition started, and we realized that they were already in counties across the northern part of California and some other areas in California. And that's what they were doing. They were trying to unite the different groups and make everybody working on the same page instead of different pages. And so we want to honor everything that different groups are doing individually. We just want to bring together opportunities for working together to get things done. And so anyway, so we brought Freedom Coalition to California, and what you're about to learn is what we are about, and hopefully find ways that you can contribute either newly or with what you're already doing, but contribute to the movement of getting this country to where it needs to be. We do feel like, we feel like God has been in on this. It seemed like when we were sitting there meeting for coffee, and all of a sudden when we started reaching out, people would just show up, and our group was growing and growing, and we were meeting more and more people, and now here I am seeing a lot of people I don't know, and I hope to meet you all. And anyway, Patty is actually going to come on up and give you a presentation on what we are about and what we're going to be, hopefully, getting everybody going on together. I forgot to mention, we want to introduce you to our core team. So can I get our core team members to stand up? In the back, in this gray sweater here, we've got Tammy, she'll wave to you. And then over to the left, from our point of view, we have Kathy. Over here, we have Linda, and Caitlin, and Sheila, and myself. And then we have pillars, which you're about to learn about. And Patty is taking on a big pillar for us. And anyway, she's going to be presenting. There you go.
Thank you, Camille. You know, it's not a one-man show, we've learned that for sure. And all of the efforts in this room, I look across and like she said, I just see brave, brilliant people. And I know you have gotten here on purpose. You did not slide in on the water slides from Waterworks Park. You have a purpose and intent that burns in your soul. And you know that this is a precipice. We're at a place that we've never quite been at before, because now it involves so much, and it is the uniting factor of the children, the innocence of the children that's bringing so many groups together. But all the purposes of each group, at the end of the day, it's about solutions. So our burden is to allow each group to be represented, each person, each voice to be represented in the way of 7 mountains. Has anyone heard of the 7 mountains before? Well, as we prayed and we asked God, how do we implement this? Because we know that the 7 mountains came out about 25 years ago, and it was used as missionaries went into other countries, and they had to see and identify what has happened to this community that has hijacked it into corruption or criminal or whatever, and how can we gain it back? So it's been somewhat effective and good, but it hasn't been in you see. So then Sheila finds this poster, and we put it in the foyer, that was actually describing what was created 172 years ago. Does anyone have any idea who might have been an influencer 172 years ago? Someone by the name of Karl Marx. And he targeted these 7 mountains on purpose. So as you can see, he would go after the faith, and the family, and the education, and business and economy, and media and communications, and arts, entertainment, and certainly government. And hasn't that happened? So here we are. So when I look at our current condition, I think about Uncle Sam going off the cliff. And we see that, and we grab the back of his jacket, and we yank him back onto the cliff, and we say, not yet, not on my watch. We have pulse in our country that we believe it's not over yet. Does anyone agree with that? It's not over yet. So this is why we're here, and we just appreciate all of you so much. We want this to be a time where we know you're tired, you're all working, that you can slide in here at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and not feel like your energy is being taken, not feel like you've been presented with more problems or more hopeless conditions, but that you leave energized and inspired, and you can take what you educate yourself, and you can be empowered, you can be equipped, and you can get engaged. Does that make sense? That's what we want for all of you. We want it for all of us, because we don't need another Hoover vacuum sucking our energy. So this is meant to be very proactive, very purposeful, and very much involved. We, as the leaders up here, the core leaders, we want to become invisible and allow each of you to stand into your position. So as you can see, there's 7 posters on the walls, 7 mountains. Hopefully this evening or whenever, you'll feel your passion burn. And it may change. You may start with one and then slide into another. It's very fluid. There's no rules. But we just pray that you will find your place, and that from this night on, things are going to change. Because you're going to be engaged. You're going to be changed just by what you hear tonight. You will not leave the same. It's going to be an amazing opportunity. So we ask you to invite your friends and family, anyone that's looking for a way to plug in the community. This is going to go county by county. And we know this is how we're going to win it, county by county. We have the privilege of meeting General Flynn, Lynn Wood, Cindy Powell, Yash D'Souza, Candace Owens, so many mighty warriors. And all of them said this summer, they said, go get your county. And we're like, what does that look like? So we have been downloaded with tactics and strategy, how to get our county back. And so it's not just about complaining, because we can do that all day long and become chronic complainers and nothing ever changes, right? And that's exhausting. So that's going to be different. So what we'll do is identify in each mountain what is the current condition. And as you know, education has been highlighted recently, right? Oh my goodness. And that is by design. That's on purpose. We won't know what to do and how to do it unless we know the corruption that's there. So we have to be brave, and we have to look at what's been going on while we've been asleep. And we've all been deceived, right? We've all been tricked. We trusted our elected officials to do the right thing, and they haven't. We trusted our schools to do the right thing, and they haven't, unfortunately. Not to say there aren't some wonderful teachers and some government leaders that are good and trying. But this is going to be a highlighting time that now they don't get to just be complicit any longer. They have to step up and fully disclose what they knew, when did they know it, and completely come clean. We're going to do that with our election from 2020. Guess what? Stuff is happening. We'll get there in a minute, but anyways, I'll go ahead and get started here with we're doing good for time too, so this is perfect. So we'll start here. Freedom Coalition. This is kind of our funnel. This is our funnel to bring everyone together and have a safe environment that's neutral, but then you guys find your spot. And so that's what we're doing tonight, and we'll continue every Thursday as long as you want to. Who are we? A political advocacy organization lobbying for freedom of choice and respect for civil liberties within all areas of life. We seek to find constitutional solutions which promote freedom. Now, freedom is a really important word, and I just want to add one thing because it was discussed last night that freedom by itself it can be really messy because not everyone understands how to operate when they have freedom. They could just do whatever they want and they have no consideration. So freedom with morality is what? Liberty, that's right. So keep that in mind because you'll see the word freedom a lot, but we want to make sure that we add that moral compass, that we don't just get to have the freedom to do whatever we want, but we have that guideline and that plumb line. Plumb line's really important. Our vision is to see a coalition between the counties of California. How many counties in California? 58, that's right. How many constitutional sheriffs in California? 35. What happened? We'll talk about that later. Anyway, the coalition would work to protect and promote constitutionality in government, in local government, and law enforcement, ensuring all present and future leaders take accountability for their oath of office and defend the Constitution as a supreme law within their jurisdiction. That's a loaded statement, isn't it? That says a lot. So what I want to highlight, can you hear me okay? Is my volume all right? It seemed like I went away. Hello, Jess? Okay. So we really want to make sure that we draw alongside of our law enforcement, our sheriff. We've had 3 sheriffs in 3 months. When does that happen? It's been a little bit kind of like a shell game as you wake up and like, you know, what happened and who's what, and now you're unanimously appointed. What does that mean? Can we get you elected maybe? How's this going to work? So because of the situation, we've all been educated. We got the books Constitution for Dummies and Constitution for Idiots, and we started reading that and started learning. And without our current situation, we wouldn't have made the effort to understand what's going on here. But what I want to say is our police officers, our sheriff, our deputies, we don't want to cause them more pressure. We want to draw alongside them and help educate them about the Constitution and about their authority and their rights and the whole thing about the mandates and how much right and authority they have with that they can make some things change. So we did give Sheriff Eric McGreevy on October 5th, 2020, we gave him a CSPOA handbook, Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officer Association, so that he could educate. And then when everything was transferred over to our new sheriff, I said something, he looked at me, he goes, oh yeah, I love the handbook from Michael Jones, so he has it too. So I was like, okay, good, it's on his desk, that's good. But all of this is meant to, we need to educate ourselves first of all, and find out who's on first, and who's in charge. We actually are supposed to be in charge of our own county and manage our own government. It's supposed to be self-management. So with this, our present and future leaders have to take accountability for their oath of office and defend the Constitution as the supreme law within their jurisdiction. So there's a lot in there, but become familiar with these terms, and this can become pretty fluid, but this is super important. So what does this, it requires all of you, all of us, all hands on deck. All means all. Everyone show up. We have a reason to get out of our pajamas every day. There's a purpose that we can find. We find our pillar. And for the sake of freedom, take your power back, one county at a time. And this is what they said, go get your counties. How many counties nationwide do we have? 3,007. Now there's some other jurisdictions and different things too, but for the most part, it's our responsibility to manage our own counties. And the lie that we believed is that each county has lost sovereignty and that we, the people, don't have the power to do anything. That's been a lie, that's been on purpose, that's been told to us. So now we're awake and we're going to go ahead and activate and we're going to make a change. And we've already seen the wave coming with education and it's going to continue. Anyone familiar with this book? I got the t-shirt. Oh my Lord, what a message. We were at the gathering and I had to just celebrate the teachers and the families that get together on Monday and all that's going on to keep the kids out of school. It's just making such a statement. And all the kids that came, and one young man came up to me with his dad, and I got the t-shirt from Sally and the other night at the event and said, let's go Brandon. And so the dad comes up to me and he goes, I see this everywhere. Could you tell me what your shirt means? And I looked at the son and I said, do you know what it means? He goes, Dad, yes, this is just the G-rated one. But we're rising up. We're getting people's attention. It's really exciting. So, did we go here? This book. Has anyone been through this book? Studying? Sheila had been amazing. Yeah. This is really, we encourage this. And it says, God not only prepares people to shape history, but he also shapes history to prepare people so that they may fulfill their destiny and accomplish God's purposes in the earth. Does anyone know about Elijah or an Esther moment? This is all coming together for such a time as this. I mean, everything that's happened, nothing wasted. And so what we want to encourage you to do is, yes, see the negative, see the criminal behavior. Don't let it get you down, because that is the backdrop for justice and righteousness to be displayed upon, and that's where we are. It's going to be incredible. Okay, so get educated, know your rights, history, and the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution and the state constitution. Does anyone know how many times our California state constitution has been changed? Over 600 times. How in the world? So we have some work to do. We have to read it, and we have to read the original, of course, that was, back in the day, and compare and understand where we stand now and why was it changed. And so we have to, when football players and teams play, what do? They study the game tapes of the opponent, right? And that's what we're doing. We have to understand Karl Marx and why did he target what he did? How did we get where we are? And then how do we gain it back? How do we unravel it, expose it for what it is? It's a counterfeit in every category. Expose the counterfeits and bring in the true, authentic, which we know the Word of God is our anchor and the Constitution is our plumb line to keep us on the level, right? So the non-compliant movie, I think we played it here. Didn't we play? Yeah, with Chris Ann Hall. So you can go to noncompliantmovie.com. America's Providential History Book. That's the one you just saw, the previous slide. Laws, Authority, and Research, the Brown Act. We were just talking about that today. Yeah. Understand it is and why it's important. Local authority and responsibilities. New legislation. These are things we need to know. We didn't understand all that was going on with the Board of Supervisors until we started going, a year and a half ago, and oh my Lord, has it ever been a field trip? Oh my gosh. And even this last time when all of our new friends, teachers and parents came for the first time, and they're listening, and we're like, oh, here we go, same old stuff, 2 and then 3, and they do what they do, and they're like, oh, these people need to be recalled. They're just like, yes, we understand that. But glad you could come to the field trip. Yeah, we're all packing our lunches. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good people do nothing. Edmund Burke, we've heard that repeated by a lot. And that's why we're here. That's why you guys are here. Because we know that if we continue to be apathetic and not do anything, things will go off the cliff and it will be past the point of no return. But I believe we stopped it just in time and we're redirecting the Titanic. And even if we have a couple holes, we're going to get where we need to go. I truly believe that. Oh, now, don't be silly with me. Oops, you know what? Okay, so this is what you have in your flyer. Of course, it's too much for me to read. You may have perused it already. You may find your spot. And these are fluid. They're a little bit flexible. I say they're like Phoebe. They're kind of bendy, but we have different categories that are going to be for different purposes. But also for you, when you see a need to be able to bring a solution to a problem in one of these mountains, that's when you're going to add and contribute your passion and your solution as to what can be done. So we'll go through these one by one real quick so you get a visual. Doing good for time. Committees and church. This is the number one target, of course, of Karl Marx was faith and the church. And so he wanted to divide it. He wanted to turn people against each other, and he was pretty successful. You know, hundreds and thousands of different denominations and lots of fights and lots of death and lots of counterfeit. So we are at a place now where the churches, it's been interesting during this season as to what's happened with our churches. A little surprising, disappointing, but even still, it doesn't have to stay ignorant and arrogant, right? So my husband and I are both ordained pastors, and when it was presented, this whole thing about closing our church fellowship where we were fellowshipping, we decided in our small group, we're not closing. And of course, a few Sundays we watched the door to see if maybe Eric was going to come in with his deputies, and like, okay, well, if they arrest us, what do we do? But we got enough information to know that this was a target, and if we closed and complied, then what? Then what are they going to do? And plus, I babysat Eric when he was little, so I have history with him. So I felt a little confident that I could persuade him not to take us to jail. But anyway, even still, it's an opportunity, because otherwise we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know what churches were going to go along with this and with this. We didn't know what they were going to do, what the pastors were going to say. So what is the thing that's going to turn the pastors to the place where they step into the solution and stop sugarcoating a message to keep the tithe and fleece the sheep? So we have to present what happened in history. And if you watch the movie with Mel Gibson, The Patriot, we just watched it again the other day, and it came to the place where Jonas Clark, there's such a story, my husband knows all about the Black Robe Regiment, but they came to the pastors and said, we need your help. We need the people to rise up and to fight. Are you willing to fight? Are your people ready? And the pastor would say, I've trained my people to be ready for this time, and we will fight. And he tore off his black robe, and underneath was the colonial uniform, and he was ready to go to war. And he led by example. He says, we are ready to fight, and we will die in the shadow of this church if we have to. And that's the kind of fortitude that we need in our churches today, right? So we want you to do your own research about the Black Robe Regiment. It's, you'll find it, and the stories are amazing. And they actually say that if the pastors did not rise up at that time, we may not have won that revolution. So it's huge what happened there. There's a lot of stories to back it up. So we need to gather. Our churches need to equip and serve the community, financial assistance to those in need, even those that are sacrificing their own jobs and security because they're rising up for our freedom as well. Benevolent funds, different things need to happen, practical things. America's providential history, but also the church needs to be aware of what happens when all the lights go out, when there's no electricity, there's no water, there's no food. The church needs to be teaching that from the pulpit, and I know the pastor here, Walker, he's good that way. We need to have a mentality that we're purposed, but we're also prepared, and we're ready for whatever comes. We're wise and we're ready. So that's the first pillar. And the second is committees of government. Now this one's good and broad, and it's probably going to have a lot of parts in it. Research, education, election integrity, we're going to highlight that. Affidavits are used, and they are moving mountains in the counties right now with elections. School boards, board of supervisors, city council, grand jury, which, did you know we had an opening? Lots of openings in our grand jury here. How many seats in the grand jury for Shasta County? 19. 16 just came open last week. So it was a little bit last minute. It was under the radar, and we didn't know. I think it was Sheila or someone that notified us, and we quickly got some friends that were willing to step in and apply for the position. It's 18 months. You know, it's quite a commitment. Doesn't pay real well. but we need more good conscience people to be represented. And these are the things that you're going to learn when you come to this meeting. We're going to give you how to strategize that week and what is most important that needs to be tackled. Because a lot of our Board of Supervisors, elected officials, they ran unopposed, right? I mean, how did they get through in their second term? They ran unopposed. No one knew. So the militia, we have Woody's going to be in charge of the government committee here. So he has a lot of facets, but he's so amazing in so many ways because he has wisdom to be able to see what a problem is and what the solution is. So we appreciate that Woody's going to be managing this whole mountain and all that's involved there. And then my husband Ron's going to be the church one. I didn't say that, so. Committees of Education, Krista Reed is going to be with Education, and Alternative Education. So the thing is, what's happened now that the parents see what's been going on in the school system and with their children, the parents are more awake, the parents want to be involved. Some may want to choose alternative education, homeschool. So these are questions that you can get answered as you get with your group to see what is the best fit for your family. Committees in the business and economics, medical field, jobs, employment, local goods. There's a medical solution called Make Americans Free Again. It's going to be new medical facilities and a lot of good alternatives that we need. We are shocked and very concerned about what's gone on in our own county in the medical field, and we know there's a lot of good medical providers and they are trapped in a system that is very corrupt. And it was curious to me when Mary Rickard found out that she had COVID that she went out of the county to be cared for. She didn't even go to our hospitals, something she might know. And we do know people that work on the inside and they say it's horrific what's happened there. People are dying, it is a death camp and it's criminal. So we're going to expose that. But with the jobs and businesses, so many of the family-owned businesses, we want to target them to bless them and to bring our money to their retail services and what they are providing today. I think we met a couple people today that own a little antique shop north of Reading. We're like, we're going to go there, we're going to visit you. And the fact that you're still in business is a miracle. So, local goods, local farmers markets. We were talking about that today, how bartering and exchanging and blessing one another with goods and talents and abilities. We need to really highlight that. Committees and media. Oh, there's so much here. Are you just a little bit tired of the fake media? Oh my Lord. We about 5-6 years ago, we bought something called a Roku. So we turned off all of our direct internet and we didn't get any more TV like normal, thank God. We even news, Fox News, we even gave that up. It took a little bit of weaning for me because we didn't know where to go. But we started purposely pulling our own news out of other sources through the Roku. And I think it kept us sane, honestly, because if you continue listening to the programming that's going on, you will get the frustration, slavery that they provide. So you guys are smart and you can test all things. You have discernment. You can tell when you're being lied to. It doesn't feel good, but it's happening. So being able to go to other sources that are available, create a local newspaper, share a local podcast. I know we have some here, Red, White, and Blueprint. Can we just celebrate them tonight? You know that something is valuable when it's targeted and attacked, right? You know someone by their enemy. And a lot of us share the same enemies. So we have a lot in common, so we're all friends, because I feel when we get to gatherings like this too, I feel like we're at a family reunion with people that like us. That doesn't always happen, you know? So we like each other, this is good. And I think the main thing I want to highlight with that too is to say, we all have our different experiences that made us who we are, and our passions that going forward, that we are determined, this is the hill I'm going to live and die on. But the tendency is to look at one another and say, well, what you're doing is not as valuable as what I'm doing, or I'm doing this. If we could just check our egos at the door and put all that aside and focus on what we agree upon, what would that look like? We agree upon freedom and liberty and dignity and wholesome living and family protection and security for our children, the freedom to breathe. I say often, they're like, are you having a good day? I say, oh yeah, it's a great day. Oxygen's for free again today. There's no charge for oxygen. And so if we could just do that with one another and be really careful not to attack one another, because even when things get confusing for me, I kind of ask myself and pray, how do I see what's the right thing to focus on? And I say, I wonder what the enemy would want me to do. And then I just don't do that. I just kind of flip it and go, I don't think I'm going to do what you're suggesting. And so the same thing applies with us working together. If we could just not do what our enemy wants us to do, and he wants us to be divided, he wants us to nitpick each other. So let's stay focused on the goals, and that's why you have 7 mountains to be able to land to do this well. Okay, so enough on communication. Family, here we are. That's the one thing we all have in common. None of us got to choose our parents. We should tell that to the juvenile hall kids. Sorry, none of us got to choose our parents. So for you blaming your parents for this, it's not gonna work. It's like blaming the weather. Well, it's sunny, so I got loaded and I beat someone up. Or it's raining today, so I thought I'd go ahead and smash a car. But the family, it's so amazing, and that's why it is so attacked and disintegrated. We have 9 grandchildren. We just found out we're going to have our 10th. It's just incredible. And grandkids are the best. They're like dessert. They still laugh at our jokes, and they think we're amazing. But I do this thing called Mimi's, the whiteboard with Mimi, and I get to draw, and the grandkids, right now, they still love it. Mimi, let's do whiteboard time. And so I'll teach them stuff about the nucleus of a family, and what does that look like, and why is that attacked, and why are there so many other versions right now. So let's go ahead and gather it together and see. Let's just be strong together. What would that look like to strengthen our family and protect it, have the proper covering, the proper protection and provision. I personally think that abortion is because of abandonment of the father. A father was there for 15 minutes and then he wasn't, and a woman is faced with a decision that is so heartbreaking and she would never make if she had a strong man that said, no, don't do that. That's just me, I'm just putting it out there. We have solutions here. But the family is so valuable. And so to keep in mind, to have a camping mentality, to be ready to camp if you have to, have an emergency family plan, a 5-minute plan if a fire comes or the power is